Hello everyone and welcome to a new IK video. This is Ken from server 49, and in this video guys we're gonna talk about fire with Genghis Khan. A lot of people has been asking me about this fire march as a main march, not as a second march. I've been using it for a very long time as a second march and it was doing very well in arena and Throne of the Supreme. However, it's not very good in actual PvP, either in kill events or KVK, but it is super good if you're using it as your main march. So we're gonna build a Genghis fire march right now. Let's see what are the skills that we will be using. So without any question, the first skill that we're gonna use for a fire march is weakness. So this is the first aura that we're gonna use, and since it is a main march, I would recommend to use Malais. As for Genghis skill, since this is the only different factor in this march. Alright, I think these skills are fine. We might use here Oaken Guard, since this is our main march. So for Genghis, I would prefer to use Genghis as a support immortal for Empress Wu, which means that we're gonna use assist on him. However, what makes this march a bit different is that the wounds that is coming from Genghis Khan. So we want him to survive, we want him to tank some damage for Empress Wu. At the same time, we want him to cast his ultimate skill. So I believe he has a decent amount of energy regain. So we don't want to use a skill such as Adrenaline Rush on him or Rage Blessing. Well, Rage Blessing in general is good for fire marches, so we're gonna use it maybe on a different immortal. So we're gonna start on Genghis with assist. Alright, one of my favorite skills to use on Genghis Khan as a support immortal is Fighting Master, because Genghis in this march doesn't get the 20% defense that he usually gets in a lightning march, which is this bonus here. So I want him to be as tanky as possible to keep protecting Empress Wu, since she's the main damager in this march. Right, for the last skill, well, this actually is gonna depend on which opponent that you're facing. For example, if you're facing a Holy March, maybe you could use Physical Shield, since Holy does only physical damage. And even if you're up against a Holy with Loki, Genghis will be safe from being controlled by Loki, the confuse effect, since you're using Fighting Master on him. However, if you're up against a March that doesn't deal that much physical damage, maybe you could use a skill such as an aura such as Sacrifice, since we don't want Genghis to deal damage. We just want him to tank for Empress Wu and apply the wounds. Or maybe you could use Magical Shield if we're up against a water or even a fire march. Let me see here, what else do we have? Maybe Misleading versus water marches with Attila and Harald. And Paralysis versus Earth marches. But I believe Shelter would be an amazing choice as well, since fire marches doesn't usually have that much heals. Even against Holy marches, I believe Shelter would be a fine choice as well, since Shelter works so well versus Holy marches. The other skills, I believe the other skills are fine. Fighting Well is good on fire marches. Energy Suppression, it doesn't have to be the same order that I'm using right now. I'm only using Fighting Well on Hippolyta since she has a physical attack artifact. The artifact I have on William doesn't have any physical damage. For the skills for Empress Wu, I believe these are the ideal skills to use for Empress Wu, since her only job is dealing damage. However, if you don't have a Spell Disintegrator, you could use Death Breath or maybe Fire Nova or Toxin Nova. Both skills are very good, but I prefer Death Breath, since Fire Nova and Toxin Nova is not that much effective versus Holy Marches, since both of the skills are continuous damage and we don't want to use that versus Holy Marches, since Theodora removes all the continuous damage. So this is how the march looks like, using Genghis Khan as a main march, mainly versus Earth and holy marches, I believe it would be very good versus mixed marches as well. However, for mixed marches, you're gonna apply some changes on the front row immortals. For example, you're not gonna use resist, you're not gonna use malice, you're not gonna use energy suppression. You're gonna use a totally different kind of skills on William. You're gonna make him more tanky, a skill such as fighting master to be used on him, lifelink, and maybe we could add defense blessing. Anyway, this is how the march looks like to be used as a main march. Pretty strong march to use versus most marches, and it works very well for people who don't have Cyrus as well. In some situations, I believe that using Genghis on fire is much better than Cyrus. Anyway, this will be all for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and have a wonderful day.